I'm Trevor Groves. I'm a physical therapist. I saw my first patient in July of 1994, and since then had somewhere north of 40,000 patient visits. And I will add to that next week at my clinic in Madras, Oregon. I first met Nikiya, over 20 years ago, actually more like 25 years ago. I was working in Bend, and Nikiya was living in an assisted living facility at the time, and he was going to college in Bend, Oregon, and I was called in to see him to teach caregivers how to assist with his transfers from wheelchair to bed in the assisted living facility. And that's when I first met Nikiya in a clinical manner. Nikiya has a rare congenital brain spinal cord condition, the outcome of which is he's functionally what we might call spastic quadriplegic, which means he has some but very, very limited use of his extremities, his arms and his legs. He's been in a wheelchair his entire life. To somebody living in a rural community, there's limited access. One of his biggest issues is limited access to services and to care providers.
Yeah, it's a different type of venue when you're in someone's home or their neighborhood. Often families there that you hadn't realized were part of their family.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think may not be the most economical way to do things, but there's a lot of extra benefits that you can gain by seeing someone in their home.
I've been really busy ever since he was born, doing things. He's had so many major surgeries, and I've been pretty busy. When my husband and I have always been his caregivers until we got older and we couldn't do it anymore. So then my sister came and she agreed to be his caregiver, and we have another caregiver that works with him. But the services are really hard to get, like you said, the transportation, because it really isolates him, because he can't go anywhere. Like if we go out to dinner, we always have to bring his dinner back, and I feel bad for that because I want him to be with us. Or if he wants to go to a movie or just shopping, we can't do that because our van it's been broke down.
The van has over 460 some thousand miles on it. It needs a new engine, needs a new transmission, lift issues, needs new tires, and it just kind of, we pray to the van gods every time I try to start it up that it gets us to Madras and back, because that's as far as I'll go with it. And the lift issue, Nikiya's program has the money to purchase a new lift, but they will not install a new lift because of the age of the van. I'm his mechanic, as you can see. I'm his caregiver. I'm his beautician. I'm his barber, and it just, yeah, him and I, we pretty much have fun. Like you said, he's a pretty happy-go-lucky kid, and he's a great kid, and so, yeah, it's just, I enjoy working for him, and the problem why he's talking about earlier he can't get caregivers is because we don't get paid mileage to do our caregiving duties. And so, like you're saying, people coming from Bend, Redmond, even Madras, they won't come down here because it's so remote out here, and they only get paid for their time. And then, if we got paid mileage, because we do wear and tear on our vehicles, and we need to maintain our vehicles, but we can't do it with just our earnings, our hourly wages. So that's the difficult part about caregiving, and working in a remote area.
How many years have you been taking care of Nikiya?
Probably about, since I moved back to Oregon, probably 3-4 years, I think. Yeah. But before that, I was a caregiver for my friend's mom, and then when my mom was still alive, I was her caregiver. So it's in the blood. It's the way our grandma and mom raised us, take care of people.
I've been in a wheelchair since birth. First they kind of thought it was cerebral palsy, and then I kind of got re-diagnosed up at the OHSU, and they called it chondrodysplasia, which I guess mimics cerebral palsy. And I had multiple surgeries up at the OHSU. One of them, I had like 2 neck surgeries. I had to relearn how to move my limbs, which that wasn't fun. And but yeah, just a bunch of dozen surgeries to help my mobility. And yeah, it's been kind of an uphill battle. If I don't have a medical appointment, usually I'm stuck here at the house, and kind of gets kind of boring and depressing when I don't get out enough. And I know I kind of get a lot of people telling me, well, let's go outside, and to me, yeah, I could do that, but it's not enough to still by myself, not talking to people that are my age or whatever. Just have that interaction, with people.
My name's Tom Creelman, and yeah, I pretty much did my whole practice time at Warm Springs, over 46 years.
What made you stay?
Well, a large part of staying was just the welcome and the support from the local community. There was several nurses and nurse aides, and the one nurse aide sort of took me under her wing and clued me in on a lot of the culture and the traditions, and got me involved in a lot of tribal activities, powwows, funerals. I've been impressed with Nikiya's persistence, his ability to take on his challenges, but he's definitely well received within the community, and he's worked with a number of the healthcare services within the community, not only for his benefit, but for the benefit of others.
Do this, and then kind of have to back up, wrap my grabber like this, so that way it won't get caught. And then I hook it right here on the bed frame, so that way I have some stability. And then, well, you'll see. When I start putting it on, I use my mouth a lot, because that's like my secondary hand. I don't know. Hook it on the second trigger right here in between, and then I kind of land it up right here, and then
have to center it. Oops. Too far. Yeah, make some other adjustments. And that's how I put on the C-tap.
Like I say, I use my mouth as a secondary hand, so you'll see me add something in my mouth.
When I do this, normally I don't have the dexterity to open my hands to open the fridge. Sometimes I have to get creative and do that. And then, yeah, open it up for that, and then yeah, and then I kind of close it like this. Sometimes so. Close it, and then if I have to close, pick up my clothes, usually I do the same thing, but I kind of turn it over there, and then sometimes if I pick up my clothes, and it takes well skilled and have to have a really strong jaw. When I do this, and you have to do that, and then like carry it to the next, Sometimes after I get done picking out my clothes, my jaw ends up being sore afterwards because all that weight and stuff. Like I said, it's kind of hard to hang on to stuff. So I have function in 3 fingers.
How does a patient like Nikiya slip through the cracks, and what in your mind, as somebody who's been providing health care for over 30 years, what can be done to fix it?
Well, I think as you've heard from Dr. Creelman and Carl and some of the other folks, there's a lot of complex touch points as to how we provide care. As a physical therapist provider in a rural community, the biggest issue we face is funding. It's a little known thing that a lot of people don't really understand in the healthcare, when we do healthcare in America, is I'll get paid different amounts of money for doing the exact same thing. We don't do that anywhere else in the economy. So one thing we know about rural communities is people are more likely to be older. They're more likely to have more comorbidities, more illnesses, and they're therefore more likely to be sicker, and they're more likely to be poorer. People who have those kind of clusterings typically are going to have government-backed insurances, and that's Medicare, and that's Medicaid, and we also have a lot more veterans in our community, so that's the Veterans Health Administration funding therapy services. So what I face, my biggest burning issue as a provider of care for somebody like Nikiya and other people in my practice is that, and I own and operate a practice in Madras, is our level of reimbursement for taking care of somebody like Nikiya is here, and my cost of care is up here. And the gap between those two numbers is how much I am writing a check to an insurance company and or the state of Oregon every time I provide that care. So in Oregon, what we've done, the way we do Medicaid, which I'll remind you is a combination of federal and state tax dollars, is some number of years ago we decided in Oregon to essentially privatize our Medicaid system, and we do it with these organizations called coordinated care organizations. These are privately held insurance companies. There's 17 of them in Oregon. And one thing we face as a provider is when it comes time to negotiate with this company. I'm a small business. We have 600 employees in my business, and then having to negotiate up against a company that has $2 billion of annual revenue, and in those negotiations I always lose. And recently I was offered a 3% raise in this economy that we're in to continue to provide care for somebody like Nikiya, and I had to make a really fundamentally difficult decision and leave the Medicaid system because, again, I am subsidizing that system when I provide care, and I can no longer do that. It's financially, it's killing my small business. So that's the biggest
issue I'm trying to advocate for. And I would look at the American Physical Therapy Association. Hopefully we'll make this more of a priority at the Oregon legislatures, which is ultimately where we need to find a fix.